Alright, I want to talk to you today about 3 logical fallacies of atheism.
Alright, today we're gonna listen to this guy complaining about atheists.
This is going to be a slightly different message than what I currently do. This is directed to the atheist. Okay, this is not for Christians about what atheism is. Alright, this is actually to atheists.
Considering how these types of videos usually are, I can only think they make these for their fellow Christians to convince each other of how right they are, when they're really not. It's pretty sad, actually.
And I'm doing this sermon, this little study here for the atheist people out there because I understand a lot of things that atheists stand for. I understand why you take certain stands.
Oh, really? Do tell.
I myself was, I don't know if you could call it an outright atheist, but atheistic for a little while there as a teenager. I was raised, forced to go to church every time the doors were open, kind of a deal, and for a while I kind of wanted to have a belief that God did not exist.
Okay, so less than a minute in, you've already made it clear for us that you have no understanding of what atheism is. Good on you.
And it's because I was looking at organized religion and not at a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
So you stopped being part of a conspiracy and adopted its primary figurehead as your imaginary friend. I'm not gonna say that's very healthy either, but it's certainly a step in the right direction.
And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. And before you jump to conclusions and start putting things in the comments and whatever else, what about this, what about that, whatever else, just open your mind a little bit and watch this video and think about some of the things I'm saying here.
To be fair, thinking about the things people say is kind of the entire reason we have questions in the first place.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually tell you what I'm going to be talking about so that you know what's coming up, so that there aren't any surprises for you.
Damn decent of you.
I've separated this into 6 different little subjects. I'm going to talk about 3 categories each. So first we're going to talk about the 3 logical fallacies of atheism.
Let's examine that idea. Atheism makes no claims other than that the person it applies to is absent of one particular belief. Therefore it cannot contain any logical fallacies. You're failing right off the bat. Let's see how bad it gets.
Then I'm going to talk about 3 types of atheists.
Categorically, there are only 2, the Gnostic and the Agnostic, with the overwhelming majority being agnostic. So I'm guessing you're going to talk about 3 stereotypes of atheists, and claim to have dealt with them, which claim I will not be able to prove nor disprove.
Then I'm going to talk about the future of atheism.
Like you would know.
3 scriptures directed at atheists.
What the Bible says about atheists doesn't matter, because we don't believe in that either.
From the King James Bible.
Everyone's favorite mistranslated farce of a sacred text.
3 serious, scary warnings for atheists, and 3 things an atheist does not have to do to be saved.
Or 6 more things an atheist won't believe.
I typically do not allow profanity in my comment section, just as a matter of, respect. There are people that have small children that don't need their children seeing a lot of the filthy language and everything else.
Okay, dude, I'm like 3 minutes into the video, and you're just babbling about profanity. Will you just shut up and start talking?
If there are atheists that are going to post profanity, I'm going to leave those comments there, because I do believe that there's a group of atheists that are very, very militant, aren't really, concerned much with facts and statistics. All they are trying to do is militantly spread their religious faith of atheism, and they're going to have a good time posting lots of profanity in the comments.
First off, it's not a religious faith, or any other type of faith for that matter. It wouldn't be one even if we considered it to be. Second, even if we were trying to spread it, anyone with a few functioning neurons in their brain knows that that's not how you spread an idea.
I'm not going to delete the comments for this one video. All right, whatever the comments are, they're going to be down there. Whatever you post, down there. Okay, now if you're putting links to, pornographic websites or something like that, that's inappropriate, okay, then you're going to be off. But whatever people write, whatever people say, it'll be down in the comment section. Now, 3 logical fallacies of atheism.
About time.
Number 1. And this is from years and years of dealing with atheists, okay?
Oh great, here we go again.
I'm not, and by the way, I wrote some notes down here because I don't just run my mouth in front of a web camera someplace. This is real outdoors here, by the way. This is not a green screen in a multi-million-dollar studio inside my Babel building, my church building, excuse me if you're not familiar with my terminology.
I'll hand it to you. That's actually pretty clever. Or at least I haven't heard it before myself.
Okay, this is on a lane going back to some land that I own. All right, out in the northeastern wilderness of Maine.
Oh, you own land. You must have a lot of money then. Must be nice being able to afford to believe in stuff like God.
This is not rehearsed. There's not going to be any stopping, starting. If I mess up, it's just me. That's the way it is. I'm not really one of the fake preachers out there. Okay, I don't exactly ascribe to a lot of their philosophies. But anyhow, we're going to talk logical things now. All right, logic.
And I'm gonna think skeptical, considering who's saying that.
All right, a lot of atheists out there say, well, we believe in reason, we don't believe in the faith and all this stuff. Okay, let's deal logically. And this, like I said, this is from me dealing personally with atheists.
Called it.
Logical fallacy number one that I get from most atheists is, number one, all Christians are or support hypocrites, pedophiles, and murderers.
That's not a fallacy. I think the term you're looking for here is blanket statement.
And I've gotten that thing for years and years and years. If you're a Christian, then you support all the wicked stuff that organized religion does. Okay, number two, everything must be proved with science before it can be believed.
Again, that's not a fallacy. That's more of a logical guideline.
That's another logical fallacy.
Guideline?
That atheists claim that they believe, but when you actually start to examine the facts, they don't really believe it. And if they believe it, they aren't really putting it into practice.
I think I know where that's going, and I can't say I like it.
And the third logical fallacy is being a Christian means you are part of organized religion. The third one kind of ties in with the first one.
No, that's just an incorrect assumption. And also not a fallacy. You really should have brought a dictionary out there with you.
It doesn't take a whole lot of study for an atheist or anybody who tries to defend atheism to look through what would be called church history, secular church history, and if you type in the word Christian, I mean, you can do just a very simple Google search, type in Christian, it'll come up with Roman Catholicism. And that's where most atheists will stop with their research.
Most American atheists that came out of religion probably came from Christianity. Any Christian can tell you that there are dozens, if not hundreds of denominations of Christianity. Any American period could tell you that. And Roman Catholicism is not the only denomination that you could call organized by any means.
Christianity is Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism has started lots of wars, including Adolf Hitler,
Wait, did I actually hear that right? Let's listen to that again one more time.
Roman Catholicism has started lots of wars, including Adolf Hitler,
Holy actual shit. He didn't deny it. For once in my life, a Christian proselyte acknowledges that Hitler was a Catholic instead of claiming he was an atheist. I'm almost proud of you on that. But as far as I know, the Holocaust was more of a political and ethnocentric thing, and because he honestly believed the Aryans were the master race and that the Jews were causing economic problems. I could be wrong there, since I haven't read Mein Kampf all the way through.
I'm not just making that up. And, Protestants do it too. Catholics and Protestants. Protestants, if you're not aware of this, if you're an atheist and you haven't really studied this.
Because why would I even bother being a history buff if I don't believe in God, right?
The Protestants were people who protested. They were Catholics that protested certain abuses of the hierarchy of their organized religion, Roman Catholicism, in the Vatican. And so they protested it and they formed their own little miniature Vaticans. I'm not part of either one. And the Bible doesn't support either one either. Talk more about that later. But you say, why? Well, how's this a logical fallacy? I don't understand. How can you say this is a logical fallacy for us to say, the atheist people out there to say that all Christians are or support the hypocrites, Christian hypocrites in the churches, or pedophiles, the pedophile priests, and murderers, religious murder, Well, let me just say it this way. All atheists are into communism and slaughtering millions upon millions of people.
Wouldn't the communism thing work better for Christians, actually?
You say, well, I've never killed anybody. Yeah, I haven't killed anybody as a Christian. You see? You say, are you for the slaughtering of people in communist Russia and communist China, the gulags and stuff like that up in Siberia?
That was Stalin.
And everything, and the Chinese just slaughtering millions and millions of their own people?
According to the research I've done, any mass murder from communist China, including the intentional murder of dissenters, and the deaths by starvation caused by the Great Step Forward, many of which were probably unintentional, resulted in less than 2 million deaths. So no, it wasn't millions and millions. You keep talking about research here, but it really doesn't seem like you've done any of your own.
And by the way, the communists in both China and Russia killed a lot more people than the Catholics ever did.
And the Holocaust. They killed more people than the Holocaust. Just saying.
And I brought this up with atheists, and they never really answered it that well.
Also, who's to say that some of your precious communists weren't Catholic themselves?
The philosophy is, you can blame me as a Christian for what Catholicism has done, but if I turn around and try to blame you for what communists have done, you say, hey, that's not fair. I don't believe that way. Well, neither do I when it comes to religious murders.
If we're not communists and we're not even in the same country where these things happened, then that's kind of irrelevant, to be honest. Though blaming anyone for something that happened hundreds of years ago, regardless of whether or not they share the beliefs those people use to justify their own atrocities, is also unfair, because everyone who took part in said atrocities is either dead, or impossibly old, and probably very senile, but that's like astronomically implausible, so I'll just presume they're all dead. But if they do share the beliefs I mentioned that were justification for doing all sorts of horrible things, that's still a pretty decent reason to look down on someone, because it makes them that much more likely to do something a good atheist would never do, like religious murder, because we don't even have religion. So religious murder from an atheist is not entirely possible.
So that's a logical fallacy that a lot of atheists will stand up for.
Will you stop using that word? Because you clearly don't know what it means.
They'll say, you know, Christians are all murderers. They support murderers and stuff like this. They support the pedophile priests and everything. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't.
I don't think you can speak for everyone on that.
And what makes you think that people that are murdering for religious causes and people that go out and rape little children, telling them that I'm your priest, do this, you know, and hypocrites in the churches, what makes you think that they're actually Christians?
Did I hear you say Scotsman? Because I'm pretty sure I heard the word Scotsman. Also, what makes you think Stalin was actually a communist? The Bible condones rape and mass murder and pedophilia on a number of occasions, so a literal interpretation of it gives plenty of reasons for me to think those people are Christians.
See, that's a problem.
No, it's not. I mean the logical part. The rape and murder part is very much a problem. Except for the cops. They seem to be in on it.
That's a logical fallacy.
I'm pretty sure I told you to stop saying that.
The second one that I mentioned is that everything must be proved with science before you can believe it. Well, if you want to define science the real way,
well, at least someone here has some authority over the definition of science.
Science is something that you can test, you can prove, and you can demonstrate.
That depends on how you use the word science. It has several definitions. That's why I keep talking about the dictionary. But I'll let that slide because you're close enough.
You haven't tested and proved and demonstrated every single thing that you've ever believed in.
Can you prove that?
There's a whole lot of stuff that you take by faith.
Let's just see about that. Give me your best shot.
I mean, when you get up in the morning, do you do a scientific test on the floor to make sure that it can hold your weight?
Well, I don't have time to go into much detail about physics, but if my floor is sturdy enough to hold my bed with me on it, and all the other heavy shit I have all over my house, then I can logically say that it's sturdy enough to hold me.
You walk into a building that's strange to you. Do you say, I need to do structural analysis before I walk into this building? No, you believe by faith that, okay, I can see the thing here, I guess it'll hold me.
If I see other people going in and out of that building without falling through the floor, then I don't need to. Structural analysis would be redundant. See, I live in America. If this building has a lot of people in it, then it probably has at least a few gravitationally challenged people in it, to be polite. And again, if it'll hold them, it'll hold me.
You know, well, there could be termites that ate out the floorboards and things and the joists in the floor. How do you know?
Because there are signs of things like that. And also they take time. For starters.
You get into a vehicle, some strange vehicle. How do you know when the guy turns the key that the thing ain't going to blow up?
I presume you're talking about car bombs. For that there's a thing about motive. And a few other factors. I'll get to that in just a sec.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and it's kinda really stupid. On your part, I mean.
You go out to eat, out at some restaurant. How do you know the food isn't poisonous?
And the motive thing. I don't have any food allergies, so that sense of the word poisonous is out the window. Also, we have laws and things that dictate what can and cannot be served in restaurants, so the only way something like this would happen is if someone wanted to murder me. There are several factors to take into account here. Firstly, motive. Because that would be entirely necessary. Someone would need to have a reason to want to poison me in particular, a way of knowing whether or not I am at the restaurant by any chance, a way of knowing who was ordering which food, and assuming the poison is put in place by someone other than the cook, they would also need a way of getting the poison into my food without me or anyone else noticing. Otherwise, the most likely culprit would probably be the cook. Also, they would need a method of procuring the efficient toxins to commit murder, which tend to cost quite a bit, even on the deep web, so it would probably be well outside the price range of some nobody working the kitchen in a 2-star restaurant in a podunk little town, like I live in. They would probably want something that doesn't take a large quantity to kill a person, and in all practicality, is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. The most practical substance to use in this case, that I can think of however, would be cyanide, though it doesn't meet the second issue of practicality that I mentioned. It takes a very small amount to take effect, it's fast-acting, and could be entirely unnoticed if mixed into a plate of some kind of food, like chop suey or soup, or something. If a fast-acting and efficient toxin was used, and the patron were to exhibit symptoms of poisoning and collapse in the middle of a meal, everyone would notice, and would almost certainly have enough common sense to stop eating immediately. The police and paramedics would arrive momentarily, and the suspect would be apprehended in a timely fashion, seeing as how common sense would dictate that no one be allowed to leave the scene until the police have finished questioning everyone available, and if any employees had vacated the premises beforehand, the present employees would be able to provide that information. For this same plethora of reasons, it also becomes apparent that even if the poisoning was random, or if the poisoner aimed to undertake a massacre in this fashion, that would also be an inefficient method of carrying out a random killing or massacre. And they'd still be caught pretty quickly unless they have the experience to know exactly what they're doing. And then they'd be on the news. And everyone would stay the hell away from restaurants. As for the motive thing, I don't have any enemies. And if I did, they probably wouldn't hate me enough to want to poison me, but I'd still stay the hell away from whatever restaurant they worked in, if they worked in a restaurant. But even apart from that, I do at least 90% of my own cooking. I rarely go to restaurants anyway. Does that answer your dumb question? Because I'm not going to repeat all that.
Are you really scientific? I live by science. Really?
Yep.
You test and observe and demonstrate everything that you ever do?
I don't have to. We have experts for that. So in most cases it would be redundant.
But you say you'll condemn me as a Christian because I talk about faith, but yet when you use faith, you just kind of, let's not mention that.
Also note that I don't center my philosophy of life around the structural integrity of my goddamn floor.
Another logical fallacy.
Man? I'm not gonna tell you again.
Another problem.
No, it's not.
Thirdly, being a Christian means you are part of organized religion. You know, if you have any religious beliefs at all that there is a God, that there is a supreme being,
that's a straw man.
You're part of organized religion. You're no different than a Muslim or a Buddhist.
Buddhists don't believe in any gods.
Catholic it's just you lump everybody in all in one big thing called organized religion.
No, we don't.
Can I lump you because you don't believe in God? Can I lump you in with other people that have no need for God, communists, and you get some rapist that doesn't believe that there's a God he's going to be held accountable to?
Rape, communism, and atheism are completely unrelated to each other. Religion and organization are not. Because many, if not most religions, and denominations of those religions, exhibit some degree of organization. Your argument here just falls flat on its face. I'm sure its nose is broken, and it's got a few busted teeth. I sure hope it does. Maybe that would make you realize how stupid it is.
See? It's a logical fallacy.
Oh, I fucking give up.
You have a hypocritical stand. Most atheists have hypocritical stands.
No, we don't. Those arguments you're making, that you keep incorrectly referring to as logical fallacies, have absolutely nothing to do with atheism. That statement you just made, however, is something we like to call a sweeping generalization. And that's a logical fallacy. If anyone's a hypocrite here, it's you.
You say, well, I know some that don't. Let's talk about that.
Not so much that I know some that don't, more like I don't know a single one who does.
On to the next section. 3 types of atheists that I've run into in my life.
Yep, I fucking called it.
Number 1.
Hey dude, I have a question. Can you be just a little bit more smug with how you present your arguments? Because it really wouldn't hurt your case at this point.
You have evangelical atheists. You say, what are you talking about? Well, as time goes by, atheism is becoming more and more like a religion.
No, it's not. It has no ideologies or dogmas attached to it. And without things like that, your little statement there cannot be true in any way.
I mean, you can look it up in the faith traditions and stuff like this. Atheism is listed.
Being listed on some stupid website doesn't make it a faith.
Atheists are starting to buy church buildings and meeting on Sundays. You know, if I was an atheist, I'd be insulted by that.
Yeah, how dare those atheists try to have a sense of community. But anyway, I actually did a search on that, and the predominant results I found were referring to what's called Sunday gatherings. Like you implied, it's like church for people who don't believe in God. And no, I'm not insulted by this at all. In fact, I think it's pretty amazing, because the meetings actually have nothing to do with faith or belief. And from my experience going to church as a kid, neither do Christian churches. It's not about belief. It's not about God. It's about community. At a Sunday gathering, someone will go up on stage and talk for a while. But instead of a sermon from the Bible, they'll be doing stand-up comedy. At a Sunday gathering, there's music. But rather than a hymnal, it's from a record of Bon Jovi or Monty Python. Big fan of them, by the way. It's all the fun of church, minus the God. I haven't been to one of these gatherings before, but after reading a few articles on them, I would very much like to attend one. I'm not sure I'd enjoy them for too long, being the antisocial prick that I am, but I'm certain I'd recommend them to anyone else. I'd actually advise you to check them out yourself. And by the way, wouldn't you be more offended by Christian churches given the things you've said about organized religion? Just saying.
There are some that are out there. And you say, well, I'm not part of that. Yeah, I know. That's why I classified 3 different groups.
I'm sure there are at least a few religious people out there who go to Sunday gatherings. I mean, there's a lot of people in the US and England, and the Sunday gatherings gained their popularity in England, and there are way more Christians in the US than there are atheists.
See? Don't classify me with all the other organized religion people out there.
You shouldn't be classifying atheists. That's called stereotyping. And like I said, there are only 2 categories.
Hear my case before you judge me. All right?
Your case has been pretty bad so far.
But what are the evangelical atheists? How can you really spot one? Well, they will be militant activists for atheism. All right? There's a lot of those channels here on YouTube. They will go into the comment sections and they will say, "Hail Satan," or something like this, or they'll try to blaspheme the Holy Ghost or something, you know, to prove how intelligent they are. And they will just argue and just, most of them, to be very honest, to be very frank with you, I'm going to speak very bluntly here, most of them are simply watching videos like this because they have been watching pornography for the last hour or 2 and they just needed a break for a little bit.
Another sweeping generalization, and based on an unfounded assumption too. But in response to that statement, maybe, just maybe, they do these things because you guys love to provoke us so much. And don't even try telling me otherwise. You clearly do. After all, you stated right in the beginning that this video is for atheists, and so far, you've done next to nothing but spew bullshit at us, and it seems damned unlikely that you're going to say anything smart now. Go ahead, prove me wrong. I fucking dare you.
Don't kid me.
Kid.
Okay? I was a pornography addict before I got saved.
Bullshit. Bull motherfucking shit. You were not a pornography addict. Pornography addiction does not exist. Sure, maybe you used porn compulsively, but porn addiction doesn't goddamn exist. But go on.
So don't tell me about it.
Oh, I'll tell you about it, alright. I'll also tell you that breaks are for pussies. And when I finish looking at porn, I usually do one of 2 things. Either I go to bed, or I turn on the TV and play more video games. Because I'm not one of those people that, when I have an afterglow, it causes me to go into satanic rage mode. Usually it's black metal that does that. But I can't speak for everyone on that. You sicko.
Alright, and I know why a lot of porn addicts
There are none.
want to deny the existence of God.
They don't.
Because there's a conscience there.
My having a conscience is one of the reasons I masturbate so frequently. After all, Your God supposedly wants us to take care of our bodies, doesn't he? And research shows that masturbating on a regular basis is all kinds of beneficial to overall well-being, including that it can cure headaches, relieve stress, lower blood pressure, reduce risk of diabetes and heart disease, and is thought to increase your life expectancy by as much as an entire decade, possibly more. And what fun is masturbating if you don't have some good porno to keep your hand company?
And they don't like that feeling of guilt that comes from looking at pornography.
Guilt, you say? When I look at porn, I feel more aroused than anything. If I'm looking at the type of porn that arouses me anyway. Not guilt. I think you might want to get your head checked.
So they just try to say there is no God to get rid of that feeling of guilt.
Funny story though, I knew one guy in high school who told me he saw some porn, and that he felt guilty about it. I just figured he'd seen something really fucked up, like child porn, or something. Anyway, come my second year of college, guess what? First thing I hear about him, he's joined some kind of cult somewhere in Iowa, and now he's back here, only now he's in a mental institution, because apparently he'd cut his arm open, and tried to plant a mushroom in it.
We're going to be talking about that later, why you have that feeling of guilt, at least at first.
I believe the term is neurosis. Or you're just overall fucked up in the head. Or you've been brainwashed by a cult, or maybe you decided to grow some mushrooms in your gaping arm wound, and the spores cross the blood-brain barrier.
These evangelical atheists, as I call them, will use lots and lots and lots of profanity. They like to use the F word quite frequently.
Oh, there you go again about profanity, as if it actually makes some kind of difference when it comes to our arguments. Wake me up when you're done.
You know, and that's what you're going to see down there in the comments. All right, you're going to see these young teenagers that are atheists. They've come out of high school. They've had their mind warped through evolution philosophy.
Non sequitur.
And of course, evolution is a philosophy. Even if you want to claim it to be science, it still is a philosophy.
Actually, no. It cannot be a philosophy. The only way it can be a philosophy is if it cannot be proven by science. Evolution has been proven over and over again by scientific means, so the idea of it being a philosophy is out of question.
The philosophy is that things get better over time. Things don't get worse, they get better.
Wrong? Wrong? Wrong. What you're describing is called optimism. The fact of evolution is that living things adapt, develop, and speciate over time to optimally suit the environments they live in, and as long as the environment doesn't change, neither do those species. Coelacanths have lived for millions of years in the exact same environment, and not changed as far as we can determine, ergo they're as well suited to their environment as they ever will be until their environment changes. But if you drop one in the middle of the desert, it's going to die, and then you're gonna be guilty of senselessly killing an innocent coelacanth, and suddenly the degree of its acclimation to its environment drops to pretty much zero. It has nothing to do with getting better. It's about adapting to your surroundings. No subjectivity, no philosophy. At all.
See? It is a philosophical system.
Nope, it's a biological process. You damn moron.
Even if you want to claim it's science, it still is. There's a philosophy behind evolution.
Stop repeating yourself, and for the love of all that is holy, and may or may not exist. Stop being wrong on the internet.
Things go up. The Bible says things come down.
Well, the Bible is wrong then. Wanna fight about it? I haven't had a good one of those in a while.
The second type of atheist that I've dealt with over the years are what I would call fundamentalist atheists. You know, because see, I believe atheism is just another religion.
You believe wrong then.
A fundamentalist atheist is one that really does study. They study the arguments. They're not just, you know, they might not even watch pornography or whatever else.
Heresy.
They just want to be left alone and left to not believe in God.
And here are you, refusing to leave them alone. For shame.
They're very, very stubborn. You can't get through to them, even if you show them facts after facts after facts.
Ha, look who's talking. That's a riot coming from a guy like you. But anyway, listen here, if you're not getting through to us, then whatever you're showing us is not facts.
They stand by their beliefs of atheism.
It's not the beliefs. How clear do we have to be to get you dumbasses to listen?
And you exchange comments back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and they won't budge. They're very much like fundamentalist professing Christians.
Minus the beliefs, of course.
What's the third type of atheist that I've run into? I would call them the logical ones. They're not really even atheists.
I hear they make wonderful Scotsmen though.
They are more agnostic.
See what I mean about not understanding atheism? Because agnostics make up the vast majority of atheists. You see, atheism technically isn't even anism. The stress is supposed to be on the A at the beginning. That's A for absence. It's the absence of theism. It's a nonism. A non-belief. Not a belief in the absence of God, but an absence of the belief in God. Are you getting it? It's an unfaith. So yeah, agnostics really are atheists in probably the truest sense of the word.
They just simply say, look, I see proof that this world evolved. I've seen science. I've seen this. I've seen that. Could there be a God? I don't know. That's what they say. They'll be more open-minded. They're a little bit more level-headed. They don't have to use a lot of profanity in their comments.
Profanity is also good for your health, by the way.
They're a little bit more scientific.
Can you prove that?
And you know what? I don't have a big problem with those types of people. I mean, I'm a Bible-believing Christian preacher, but I'll tell you right now, somebody comes and they have questions, I'm all for questions. I'm all for somebody saying, hey, whoa, I need to see a little bit of proof of this type of stuff.
Yeah, actually. And you haven't shown any. All you've really done is complain. And call things fallacies when they really aren't. And also quite a bit of lying.
And we're going to be talking more about this as we continue through the study, but I've seen these types of people. And, you have people in communist countries and things like that are raised and there's no Bible allowed to be preached in their country and whatever. They kick out any form of Christianity. A lot of the people would fall under that third class. They're more logical. They're more open-minded. They're not quite as stubborn. They don't have this extremist kind of a zealot religious intolerance for anything else. They are more open-minded. Now, what about the future of atheism?
AKA the science fiction part.
Why am I doing this study?
The first time I watched this video I thought you were having an epiphany there. But no, it was just a pointless rhetorical question.
Well, there are some things coming to this world that the Bible says would happen, and you can actually see it in the local news.
Well, this video's gone on long enough. Let's see how far we are into this little clusterfuck. You've got to be shitting me.